Hello, my name is Tom, and I want to talk about psychosis through my own experience after 3 psychoses and the logical reason why people seem to be insane when they have psychosis and they want to kill other people or kill themselves and believe maybe in aliens or demons and the government and authorities are lizards. Why is this the reason that people seem to be insane and irrational? Because people with psychosis are emotionally traumatized. Maybe from childhood. There are a lot of things what could be happened, that children get abused and then the abuse got justified with, if you're not a brave boy or a good girl or a good boy, then you're going to hell. Or if you're a liar and stealing, then you're going to hell. All sorts of beliefs what got put into children to be quiet, shut up, suppress emotions, feelings and sensations. This is why people believe in demons and monsters, because they create their own monsters for themselves to hold themselves in place. Where we hear it from the monster under the bed or in the closet. And this monsters, aliens, are real, because underneath is the layer of fear of dying and survival, fight, flight and freeze mechanism. Always this fear, ostracization and left alone, abandonment, of course going to hell and suffering after death in hell. So it get created for the children to fit in the box. If you were a child, then you have a lot of imagination. You're projecting yourself into some superhero, some Superman, Batman, whatever, to fight against these demons in the childhood. Because of lots of superhero movies and other movies, always fighting against the bad guy. And in this case, for a psychosis, everything is coming up. Because eventually the ego is cracking and falling apart, because you have to defend yourself or you don't survive. And you get in contact with all sorts of beliefs from childhood, fit in the box of society, in your family, in school systems, in religions. And some people get suppressed their whole life with physical, emotional and psychological abuse. And so to speak, children holding themselves into place. And the friends and family is a hierarchy, and you as a child, you have to learn and learn and learn to eventually survive if you're an adult. And if children get abused physically, they have to, when they defend themselves, they have to go against these beliefs. That what was put into place from the abusers. I had this for myself. The brutal thing is that children cannot remember anymore some beliefs what put them into a cage in the first place, or in slavery. Like me in my childhood, don't be like that, don't act like that, don't be scared, don't be angry at me. An Indian, don't feel pain. And there's always this underlying threat that you get abandoned or ostracized or left alone if you not behave. In this case, you're always the bad guy because you cause always trouble. There has to be something wrong with yourself. But people have to understand not every label or belief is dangerous. It becomes dangerous if children get oppressed with physical force. Then they have to act out this oppression. And if you cannot resolve these traumas, this physical abuse, emotional abuse and psychological abuse, you then go against your own beliefs when you are adult, then people can get insane. Because if the ego collapses, all this stored traumas underneath, this emotional layer under the beliefs come up. And of course, these people who have psychosis believe everything what is coming up, because they believed it in the first place in the childhood. And when the ego falls apart, people are all over the place because of the all stored emotions, and then they feel it again. But they should not feel these emotions from childhood, because there's some beliefs maybe still there. So there's this inner war, And it's not only a psychological war, it's an emotional war. Because the ego wants to control these emotions again. Because there's no allowance to feel all this. Because the parents were in the childhood like God. So people talk weird shit, do weird shit from an outside perspective. From my perspective, it was an insane war against the outside world. Later it got softened and it was like child play. But it was still real. Afterwards, when I look at it, yes, it was child play. But I really believed that I can talk with the refrigerator, or that the birds were flying around on the outside. There were drones that with surveillance cameras and stuff. Because children even got blamed and shamed for being children, to be noisy or loud, have fun, and some children have it worse because there was not much allowed, and they were always dependent on the mood of the parents, so they become people pleaser or nice guys or passive aggressive. Some people or some children back in the days destroyed things because of their anger and frustration. And so little children are more raw, so you can maybe understand that if all these emotions come up in a psychosis, then there will be a lot of anger, and it is extreme emotional. Because of the abusers don't want to be the bad guys. They mean it always good. As justification, you don't understand me. You think you have to think about yourself, what you did. Don't blame me. And this abused, traumatized children internally still believe that the parents are God. They cannot argue and defend themselves. And you see, there's always this war on a psychological level and on an emotional level. On an emotional level, what you should not feel. So you're always against this hierarchy from parents or governments or other people were above you in the childhood. And of course God or the devil. So you can make this famous comparison with the elephant that was put on a pole with a rope and it couldn't escape when it was young. And now it's a big animal or a big elephant and it could be easily escape, but it lost his hope and will, and it gave up. This is with all abusive victims. So they fighting against themselves and the abuse, and they're against their own beliefs and habits. So people seem to be insane when they have to act out all this trauma, what's coming up on an emotional level. And then people label it that the other peoples are all demons, or people are reptiles, aliens, whatever you want to call it. And this is this labeling what these children become in childhood. And worse is it with children who cannot speak up anymore, defend themselves and do everything what other people want. But there's still this problem if the parents are the abusers. They don't want that the child is defending himself in some kind of abusive relationship. And let's be clear, there's a lot of abuse in all sorts of relationships, especially in religious relationships. And they hope that God will always help them, I mean, we people are here on the planet to make experiences and survive and create new generations of children. People think the Stone Age or the Mid Age is over. No. And maybe if the abusers don't want this, so then there's war. And abusers always want to be in control of everything. Some call it narcissism, but it's more than narcissism. It's like not allowed to feel any emotion. And children act out this abuse from childhood because they never learned something different. Because we live in a society where everybody is abused. Everybody is a drug addict in some way, regardless it's caffeine, sugar, alcohol, nicotine, smartphone addiction, computer games, sex, music. People are always on the always going for the next shot of happiness. If you were abusive victim in childhood and you become an adult, you want to feel better, but this is in this case is it counterproductive, because these emotions come up and you have to feel it and release it, then you can feel better. And the problem with beliefs is that you can re-addict yourself to other drugs and substances to escape or suppress the emotions and feelings. So now you understand there's a psychological layer with beliefs and habits, and there's this emotional layer that is under the surface, that was suppressed years and years and years, tens of years ago. So the problem is with nicotine, alcohol, drugs, medications, you suppressing the underlayer what is coming up. What is normally to feel it and shake it out, like animals do. But the second problem is this: there is still all these old beliefs in place. And unconscious people like doctors or therapists only give people an easy fix to suppress and repress these traumas again. So it gets emotional more toxic, because doctors think that is a psychological problem, but there's an emotional level too, and that is got suppressed again. It would be like you pushing someone's head under the water, but he does not drown. And then you have to create more and more beliefs to hold this head underwater until this trauma gives up and waits until the next time, or it rots. People get sicker and sicker and don't know what's caused it, because maybe of alcohol addiction, drug addiction, nicotine addiction. Too easy forget this all. So it's called for a reason, the devil never sleeps. So this is why people who are insane or seem to be insane have psychosis, coming up with all sorts of reasons why other people are demons, aliens, reptiles, because they are the bad guys and they force them to suppress and repress their emotions. And of course, the others are then the enemy. So you understand why these traumatized people are killing other people, and sometimes innocent people. This creates then more and more trauma, because people are not aware of it, because it's only get worked on the surface and not on a deeper level. So thank you. That's all what I have for now.